In the last 30 days, this e-commerce business spent $76,763 on Facebook ads to drive $239,000 in revenue. That's a 3.82 return on ad spend at scale. Better yet, they did all of this with a $47 cost per acquisition. Today's video, I'm gonna break down how I've optimized this account and how I'm checking on it on a regular basis. This is not gonna be the sexiest video. I'm gonna tell you very straight up. This video instead is going to be the real raw truth of exactly how you need to optimize your ads, no matter how you're set up. This comes down to a few fundamentals. The very first and most important thing is actually looking at the right metrics at the right time. What this actually creates is this really weird setup where you're not actually tracking to your exact goal. The very first thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you so you could literally pause this video and copy and paste my exact columns. These columns are gonna help you optimize, and they're gonna really just be a guide for you if you're driving an e-commerce business forward. So step by step, every single column that I like to use in my Facebook ads that I specifically look at across all the accounts. Now keep in mind, you might have to add additional things in here. If you're really driving for any special leads, or if you're really focused on frequencies or different things that are going on, sure, add different columns in here. These are just my core. This is what I treat as like my holy grail of all column sets. First off, most obvious ones that are mandatory are the on-off button, the campaign. The first column set that is custom is delivery. It tells me if there are any problems within the specific campaign, and it actually also follows down to the ad set level and the ad level. Furthermore, it's actually going to show when things are in learning versus when things are active. So if something's out of learning, it will actually say active, as it does right here. And then when something's in learning, I could just hover over it really easily and see how many conversions I have left to get through the learning phase. This is a perfect example. The last time we made a significant edit to this campaign was 3 days ago, and it's driven 12 conversions since that significant edit. This is going to drive its 50 conversions actually quite quickly based on the results that it's driving for us so far. And it's going to get through the learning phase, and then it's going to be even more optimized than it is right now. It just helps me keep an eye on everything that's going on in the account. On the campaign level, we have no errors here. There's a few recommendations on delivery, no problem. The second column that's really important here is attribution setting. So this is just going to tell us what attribution setting we have in this account. A big part of the second half of this video is going to be the right attribution to set and actually how to optimize using different attribution modes, which, stick with me, is going to be critical, but you have to have these columns set up properly to actually optimize effectively. Bid strategy is my next column. The one thing that's a little annoying about bid strategy is when you're looking at a campaign level, you're seeing a lot of using ad set bid strategies when we're using cost caps for certain campaigns. You move into the actual ad sets, you do see these are some old campaigns. You see they're off here. They were running on highest volume. And now for the most part, we're using cost per results or cost caps. Next piece, budget. Most important thing that you need to see holistically all the time. Again, we're seeing this more on the ad set level, but we could see all the budgets that we're running in one place. Very important. Amount spent, first column every single time. It's your most important metric. Next, purchases. I like to have the core, so in this case, the purchase, and then I have the cost per purchase next. Purchase conversion value, which is basically your revenue. Purchase ROAS, or return on ad spend. Link click-through rates, followed by cost per click, but not cost per click all. It should be cost per link click. That's very important. CPM is really a measure for how expensive advertising is for you, really based on how great their brand is and how effective their marketing is. It's really just important to understand, is it trending in the wrong direction or the right direction? Is it staying flat, etc. Next piece is impressions. So we always like to have a little gauge on how many people are we impressing, how many times are our ads being seen, and then we move on to reach, which is just unique impressions for the most part. Frequency, one of my most critically important metrics that I love to follow is the average number of times someone saw your ad. Is literally just taking your impressions divided by your reach. This is such an important metric because it really gives you a gauge of, am I overspending? Am I spending too much on the same people? What's going on in this business? And I can tell you, just to show you an example here, this here is one of our retargeting campaigns. Over a 30-day period, the average person sees an ad 6.89 times. I'm completely comfortable with that. We want to retarget these people. We want to get them to purchase. But then take one of our primary prospecting campaigns, a frequency of 2.93 over the course of 30 days. This campaign is doing a really good job of getting out there, finding new people for us at a lower frequency, which is really important. Next piece is just add to carts and cost per add to carts. To be honest with you, I don't use these as much. These are just guiding for me. Are we seeing good signals early with an ad? Are we seeing bad signal? Because in 99% of cases, if you have a low cost per add to cart, that's going to relay into a low cost per purchase. For example, we have a $6.88 cost per add to cart here, and it's actually one of our most effective cost per purchases here. What you have to be a little bit careful of is if you're just starting out, you're not spending this much money, don't just look at add to carts as some sort of measure for success. It's just a guiding force, something I like to look at. That's the full recap on all the columns we'd like to set. These columns fall into each ad set and ads. You can see here, the same thing that we have in the ad sets actually fall down at the ad level as well. All the same columns, to makes it really, really easy for us to see everything. And that's why we always set up our custom columns. If you don't know how to set your custom columns, click on the column set here, scroll down to the bottom and just click customize columns. Once you're in there, you'll be able to use everything that I just broke down for you. Feel free to just copy and paste the ones that I use generally 9 out of 10 times, what most people should be using, with a few exceptions, as I mentioned. How do we actually optimize our campaigns? How do we optimize our ad sets? And how do we optimize our individual ads? The first thing, the most important thing when we think about advertising is, where's the money going? We're spending a lot of money. Where is it going? Where is it flowing to first? So that always happens at the campaign level. What we always want to do, click on our columns and we're going to scroll down to compare attribution settings. It's going to allow us to just see the click attributions. What we like to do is select 7-day click and 1-day view. This will then break these down. You could see in this column here, we have 524 purchases, 326, 198, equals 524. These two equal this 524. Now you might notice here, we have quite a high number of view through conversions. Now that's a little bit concerning. What I like to do, and this is the really core thing here, if you're gonna listen and take away one thing from this whole video, it's this right here. Always optimize our campaigns based on the click data, not on the view data. Here's why. Facebook and Instagram are super good at slipping in at the last moment, showing you an ad right before you were about to purchase. You could be at the checkout, about to buy, hop on your phone for 2 or 3 seconds, give it a couple scrolls, see an ad, and then Facebook gets credit. That's a view through conversion. Now that's one of the worst examples, but on the contrary, a click conversion requires that you click on the ad and you go to the website. Technically, it could be a click and an engagement. The most important thing here is that you know for a fact someone didn't just scroll by your ad real quick and wasn't influenced by it. If they made a click, if they made an engagement on that ad, that is at least an indication that they interacted and that ad helped with the purchase definitively. That's how I like to think about it. What I want to do here is I want to look at these on a 7-day click versus a 1-day view. You could see very clearly when we just look at this campaign, we look at this whole account by overall cost per purchase. If we go over to ROAS here and we just were trying to make optimizations based on our return on ad spend, you probably consider pushing more into this campaign because it has a 4 return on ad spend, and you definitely want to push into this campaign where it has a 5.24 return on ad spend. You want to pull out of this and reduce here and reduce here. You'd want to reduce budgets where your overall return on ad spend is lower and allocate to places that they're better. This is a very common practice. There's parts of this that are true. However, you're going to do this a little different now. Instead of just moving all your budgets around, you're actually going to look at the 7-day click conversions and then move your budgets according to that. What we can see here is according to our 7-day click, this campaign here, despite having one of the lowest return on ad spends overall, has one of the best 7-day click return on ad spends. That to me is a really strong indication that we should be spending more money into that collection very quickly. And where should we be pulling that from? I think it's obvious. We should be pulling from this campaign here, a very high view through conversion ROAS and a very low click through conversion ROAS. So we're shifting money using the 7-day click. What's cool about this is you don't actually just need to do this on ROAS. You can do the same exact thing on a cost per purchase. Cost per purchase is usually the easiest way to optimize. Same thing here. This has the highest cost per purchase by $5 or so. It's pretty rough from that perspective, but look how drastically better it is compared to all of these costs per purchase on the 7-day click. It blows away almost everything. The only one that it's close to is this top campaign here. Very quickly, we're going to want to allocate about 10-20% cash away from these bottom performing campaigns, number 1, number 2, and number 3 here. And we're going to want to push it into this campaign at about 10 to 20% increments every few days until it balances back out again. Usually what we'll see when we do that is, yes, we'll see this one campaign cost per purchase go up. So we'll see it go a little bit in the wrong direction when we're giving it and feeding it more budget immediately. Overall, the account will get a little bit better. We'll see a $2 to $5 reduction in cost per purchase, which is a significant deal when you're spending $70, $100, $200,000 per month. That is the campaign level. Anything you're doing at the campaign level could generally happen at the ad set level. If you're running a CBO campaign, which I know most people are running CBO campaigns, then you could just sit back and let it do its thing. Here's what you need to do if you're running a CBO campaign and you're seeing one ad set get way too much spend. So let's take this example right here. If this was a CBO campaign, you might see few of these ad sets get all of the spend, even though a few of the other ad sets have higher return on ad spends. And you might be tempted to say, let me pause down this, let me pause down this, and let me pause down this, because they have higher cost per purchases, or in this case, using the ROAS metric, they have worse return on ad spends. There's a very specific reason why Facebook is actually spending your money in different audiences. It's because it's influencing something along the way. Sometimes an ad is really good in the second position and you'll never know it. What we are always hedging against is pausing down high spending ad sets. There's only one specific reason why you should pause down high spending ad sets that are not returning for you. Let's say this ad set right here, as we scrolled through all of our column sets, had a very, very high click-through rate. Let's pretend this click-through rate was something like 4% and the rest of the account was 0.5%. If that was the case, it is such an outlier that Facebook's going to naturally think that this campaign is better than everything else. It's going to allocate all the spend to it really, really quickly, because the signal that it's telling Facebook is that this is so engaging and it's going to convert equally. What will have to happen is this campaign or this ad set will have to get out of the learning phase. And then once it gets out of the learning phase, it will then recognize that, oh, even though the click-through rate's high, it's not converting as well. What we need to do is we need to get ahead of that. We can't wait for 25 purchases every single time we make a change, because to be honest, we'd always be sitting in the learning phase and we never get ahead of the algorithm, right? That would really hurt us. What we need to make sure is we're always checking our click-through rates and our CPCs. If we see a huge difference in this, then that's a really strong indication, hey, maybe this is a time when we can pause down this ad set. If this had a very low return on ad spend, which would be right here, and it had a very high click-through rate, and it was spending a lot, then yes, I would not have a problem pausing this down. Moving on to our actual ads. Inside this one ad set, how do you decide which ads to kill and which ads to keep? First, the very easiest way to think about this is you always want to keep the highest spending ads unless they're really, truly not converting at a click-based level. This works so well because we just did a big round of optimizations here. You could see I actually paused 2 of our top 4 ads. The number 1 and number 2 ad are doing very, very well from a click base and a view base in terms of cost per purchase and in total number of purchases and in total volume. These 2 ads have driven a collective $27,000 of a total of $64,000 across this entire ad set. What I'm a little concerned about and why we paused this ad down was right here. Is if you look at the return on ad spend, not only is it low on a view, it's low on a click, much lower than our average on a click. So what we went ahead and did was we're pausing the worst click-based converting ads that have very low spend and not high return on ad spend. We scroll all the way down to the bottom here. You can see that a lot of these were showing signal of really they weren't going to pick up. That's just the truth of it. They were all spending $20, $30, $40, $50. It adds up if you think about it. We're not driving the adequate purchases that we need. We saw a couple possible winners down here. So we see these 3 ads, which we kept live. They were only spending $50 or so over the last 30 days. They're really, truly bottom feeders. They're not doing that much for us. They drove a few purchases. There's really no harm in just letting these run for a little bit longer and seeing if they do pick up. The thing that we don't want to get ahead of ourselves on is we never want to take these ads, these driving ads. These are like 4 of this entire ad set, maybe even the core of this account. If we pause these down, think about how drastic of a change that is to the entire ad set, to the entire campaign, to the entire algorithm. That could fundamentally change where all the money goes. Now Facebook has to distribute an extra 6 or more thousands of dollars to different ads quickly, because you're not saying, hey, go spend this money over time. You're saying go spend this money right now because this is a daily spend target that you have set. So we have to be very careful whenever we're adjusting ads, especially when we're adjusting our top ads. If you got value out of this video, or if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I try to reply to everything, and I will see you all in the next one.